Welcome back to Womp Rat Radio. Tonight we are talking the history of Star Wars animation. This is going to be great. Don't miss it. We'll be right back.
To WRRT, Womp Rat Radio, Tatooine.
Iceland Spaceport. You will never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
Most impressive. You are not a Jedi yet.
The Force is what gives the Jedi his power.
I love you.
I know.
It binds the galaxy together.
I'm Luke Skywalker. I'm here to rescue you.
No disintegration.
As you wish.
Half-witted, scruffy-looking nerf herder.
This is where the fun begins.
At last, we will reveal ourselves to the Jedi.
Feel. Don't think. Use your instincts.
This is how liberty dies. With thunderous applause.
Ahsoka. My name is Ahsoka Tano.
Why did you come here?
Because of you and your apprentice.
You already know the truth. The belonging you seek is not behind you. It is ahead.
My name's Rex. But you'll call me Captain or Sir.
Sir, yes, sir!
They said 50 years old.
The commission was quite specific. The asset was to be terminated.
Whoa, man. Slow down. Might want to quit while you're ahead.
You might want to quit while you're behind.
Can't tear this ship apart until you found those plans and bring me the passengers. I want them alive.
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only
Not
hope.
so fast. It appears I have an idiot's array.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
He doesn't like you.
Sorry.
I don't like you either.
I am Bo-Katan of Clan Kryze.
I got a bad feeling about this.
Use the Force, Luke.
Let go, Luke. You can't win, Darth. If you strike me down, I shall become more powerful than you can possibly imagine. Put Captain Solo in a cargo hold.
Could be worse.
It's worse.
Ranger Crest, do you copy? You have to reduce.
Almost there. Almost there.
Ranger Crest, do you copy?
May the Force be with you.
Your destiny lies with me, Skywalker. Obi-Wan knew this to be true.
Wars not make one great.
Thank Ferret, that was close.
You were right. You were right about me.
Dank Farrick, that was close. I need to bring in with me tonight my friends helping me out, talking about Star Wars. I'm going to start with Ed and his mouse ears. Ed, what's happening, man?
Hey, Sam, how's it going?
Nice. I love that. You got the Death Star and the X-Wings, and I love that.
The only place I can actually pull these things out and get away with it.
And we love it. We absolutely love it. Stan Solo, what is happening, buddy?
Yup, Nub, how are you?
Yup, Nub. I like it. I see a bunch of porgs on you there, too, man.
Got my porg shirt with little R2s hidden in there.
There's R2D2s hidden. We'll get
little
back
R2s hidden in there. Yeah, whatever. Let's see. Where's an R2? Here's an R2 right here. It's kind of
nice.
Hard. Yeah, they're kind of
Chewies hidden in there.
No, just porgs with the odd R2.
Got it. And last, my friend Disney Nerd Jimmy with his Disney Nerds podcast shirt on. How are you? Sitting in Galaxy's Edge over at Batu. That's wonderful, dude.
I love it here. Sam, you might want to quit while you're behind.
So I'm watching that, thinking to myself and trying to make a mental note of all the animation clips that I had in there, because animation has been such a huge part of Star Wars all along. It's just crazy to see that there. I think it's cool.
It's really amazing how much Star Wars animation there's been over the years. And you don't really think about it until you actually write it down and you realize how much there has been.
Oh, speaking of writing down, Stan, I sort of gave you a homework assignment where you more volunteered for it than I gave it to you. But you have quite the list of Star Wars animation, and it's going to be fun to talk about all this stuff tonight. That's for sure.
Yeah, it was. I didn't realize there was that much, and I think I've watched every single minute.
I have not watched every minute, but I'll tell you where this started, right? Because what we were doing, the WompRatRadio, it's April the 8th, 2021. We're getting started, and we know that coming very soon is the Bad Batch on May the 4th. That's when that's going to come out, and that's the latest in the Disney animation studios. We talked about this a little bit a month ago, Stan, when you and I were live, and we talked about the Bad Batch being Clone Force 99 with Hunter and a Wrecker and Crosshair and Tech and Echo, them all being parts of it. We even did some pretty cool stuff and pointed out a couple of things in the trailer, because you and I watched the trailer, and I don't know if you guys saw this or not, Jimmy and Ed, but this is from the Bad Batch trailer, that image. And when I looked at it, I went, So I immediately went back to some Mandalorian stuff. That's the Mandalorian. And as it turns out, Fennec is in the Bad Batch.
Nice.
We're going to get some backstory there. I just love that connection.
Definitely.
It's huge crossover, and it's so obvious once you look through it. And I did a little homework, and that's absolutely true, that Fennec is in the Bad Batch. A couple other things that cool preview showed us, the teaser trailer, was that, you know, the Empire basically said, go get them. They are enemies of the Empire, this Clone Force 99, the Bad Batch. So that was interesting.
I also find it interesting that now in the advertisements they've included Echo, because it gives us a little bit of timeline, because the Bad Batch existed before they were introduced, obviously, in Clone Wars, but when Echo wasn't a part of them until after their introduction in the Clone Wars. So we know that this takes place after that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And in fact, one of the things to point out there, Jimmy, and I'm glad you say that, if you're not familiar with the Bad Batch and you want to get familiar with them before the release, it's Clone Wars Season 7, Episode 1 is where it starts. There's 3 episodes in the Clone Wars, and those 3 episodes will absolutely give you some of the details on what the Bad Batch is, who they are, how they all interact together, and those types of things.
Yeah, I definitely want to watch those before May 4th.
Right.
Or rewatch.
Yeah, just to get back up to speed, rewatch.
Yeah, absolutely. It would definitely be a good idea to go back and just kind of to rewatch those episodes, which those are probably some of the best episodes of season 7.
They're really good.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Hands down, they were the best episodes of season 7.
And it's cool that they're getting a spinoff. Well, I don't know, though.
That's why they were the best episodes.
Well, the
last 3 were pretty darn good.
They were pretty darn good. Too. The ones with the 2 sisters kind of felt like they were filling
in the middle. Yeah, it was like
felt like they were filling a little space. Kind of, I guess they were kind of building Ahsoka's story to finish off with the last 3, but the last 3 were pretty darn good, and the Bad Batch very good too.
I'd much rather have a Bad Batch series than the 2 Sisters series.
Yes, agree completely.
I don't even remember.
And that's a whole nother episode, by the way. We got another episode of WompRatRadio to talk about those last 3 episodes of Clone Wars Season 7, which are amazing. So you guys know that typically we talk about some news. So I was going through the news, and the one thing that jumped out to me was the Star Wars Vintage Collection has arrived on Disney Plus. And this is some of the classic cartoons that we thought were lost, that would never see again. And that sent me down this path of, oh my goodness. So Stan, a couple of those there. I know you know what are those things right there?
Well, the first one is actually the first one and the fourth one going in the circle. Those are the Tarkovsky series. Actually, so is the Ahsoka, or the one in the middle too.
Is that Shakti?
Shakti, yeah. Those are 3 are from the Tarkovsky series. He's pretty well known. He did the Powerpuff Girls.
Oh, okay.
It's the same kind of styling as the Powerpuff Girls.
Yeah, it makes sense now that you say that.
And then the Wookiee, or the Chewbacca with Boba Fett. That's Boba Fett's first appearance from the holiday special. There's a little animated series set of it's called the Faithful Wookie. And so
we're going to check that one out. And of course,
Star Wars animation ever, official Star Wars animation.
That was like a heavy metal type of animation treatment too. If you ever remember the metal movie.
Yeah, and that was a Canadian company that made it. I think I can't pronounce
that.
Yeah, Nirvana, I think it's called. And they also did the Ewoks, which is the 4th one. They did the Ewoks and the Droids series as well.
So let's walk through and get to those. And I figured before we get started, we need to put this thing into hyperdrive to go back in time to the beginning of this timeline. So I found a couple of clips that I just liked, and I needed a reason to play these.
Thank goodness Star Wars never did time travel.
Wouldn't that be cool if we could? So, and that's where it all starts, Dan. So I pulled together a timeline back to 1978, The Faithful Wookie, which was part of the Star Wars Holiday Special.
Yeah.
And Stan, this is on Disney Plus now, right?
Well, just not the Holiday Special, just The Faithful Wookie is.
Right.
Just the cartoon from inside of it.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is interesting that they would do that.
And Anthony Daniels does the voice for C-3PO in this, and I don't think Jeremy Bulloch is the voice of Boba Fett. I'm not sure who does the voice of Boba Fett in this, but it is the first appearance of Boba Fett.
It is in 1978. So this is also, you got to remember when this came out, because it had to have been rushed to production, right? 1977 or 78, Star Wars comes out. Children like myself were clamoring for anything Star Wars that we could get our hands on. This thing got rushed to production, which is why maybe we're only seeing the small piece of it, the story of the Faithful Wookie inside of this. But I do have a couple of clips because, as you said, Stan, this is the first appearance of Boba Fett. So let's watch this quick.
What is it, Mr. Hook? I'm not sure. You saved my life. Thank you.
Maybe I can help you. I am Boba Fett.
Yeah,
the ship you seek
Boba
is
Fett.
nearby.
Are the Imperial troops near this planet?
They are here, friend, and growing more powerful.
How far away?
Settle down.
I'm not sure where that settle down whack thing comes from, but that's pretty cool right there. And it actually leads to a couple of really cool things years later. So in 1978, we have the Faithful Wookie, and you have Boba Fett, who was just introduced, who's got this kind of spear in his hand. And then we wait until The Mandalorian Chapter 1 in 2019, and we see that same weapon in another Mandalorian's hand. And those are things that blew my mind.
And funny
Go ahead. I was going to say, and what tied it together? What made that whole memory last from 78 with this cartoon that had that weapon till now?
It's a great question. I remember it.
It was the toy, because remember, Boba Fett came out with that weapon. And
the toy, that's right.
Before he was in the movie, before The Empire Strikes Back. And that was something that stuck with him in the original toy. And that was so amazing how they kept that through the whole time, too.
I don't remember the toy coming with that weapon.
I remember it in one of the Boba Fett's. Absolutely.
At Star Wars Celebration, they showed us a clip of The Mandalorian. And when that weapon came out, the whole crowd went nuts.
Because everybody knew.
Everybody recognized it immediately.
And by the way, that weapon is hanging on the wall at Doc Ondor's.
Yeah. And Dave Filoni said, I was hoping this would be the reaction to the weapon, he said.
Nice. Because he knows. He knows.
He knows that we know. Yeah.
There's one other thing in the same Mandalorian episode, and then that's the last time I'm going to go back. We'll keep looking at the other stuff. But the same thing, if you go back to The Mandalorian Chapter 1, there was a very quick clip
I don't have time
here.
for this. Do you have a land speeder or speeder bike that I could hire?
You are a Mandalorian. Your ancestors rode the great mythosaur. Surely you can ride this young foal.
And that is the great mythosaur right there.
Great connection.
It's a tie back. Your ancestors rode the great mythosaur. Of course you can ride that thing. It's like, oh my gosh.
And what more? Go ahead, Jimmy. Sorry.
Going back just one minute to the weapon. The other thing about that weapon that really it brought back, Empire Strikes Back and Darth Vader in no disintegration.
Yeah.
Which we never saw a disintegration. So until we saw that weapon in The Mandalorian, then we realized what disintegration actually meant disintegration other than clothes.
I never even put two and two together. It's a good one, Jimmy. Yeah.
I never thought about that type of technology. That's very true.
That creature you showed from The Mandalorian.
Or from the Mando, okay.
If you watch we were talking about, it's off topic, but we were talking about the vintage series.
Mm-hmm.
The Ewoks TV specials that are now available on Disney Plus. That was the first appearance of that creature, was in that Ewoks TV special.
Oh, that's cool.
And Dave Filoni took it directly from there and put it directly into the Mandalorian. It's
so Dave Filoni is somewhere watching these old things, going, "I need to get that in it. I need to get that.
That's exactly what
I need to get that in it." And that's just cool as heck.
Well, what he said was interesting was, actually, he said that on the Disney Plus special, how the Mandalorian is all it is our older brother took all the cool action figures. And we were left with all the minor action figures. Somehow in there was a Mandalorian that we got to play with.
Well, that's, I think his quote was, "They left us with the Ugnaughts and the Jawas."
Yeah, exactly.
Because my older brother took Darth Vader and Luke and Leia and all the cool ones and left me with these.
Yeah, and somehow that pile there was a Mandalorian that we got to use.
That's definitely cool. And there's some screenshots from it, including Chewbacca. And I don't know what this language is here, Ed. That was the intro.
Not sure.
I'd love to try to figure out what that was, but you see C-3PO. It says the Faithful Wookie. That's exactly right. So that was cool. That's your first Star Wars animation. I'm not sure what this clip is. Oh, this leads us to the next one.
Yeah,
after the Faithful Wookie, the second one.
And before we start, I just want to throw this really quick at you because Aaron Rodgers is doing Jeopardy this week. He's the host of the show for the next 2 weeks.
Oh, yeah?
He was in the headlines today, and I saw the show last night. He had a Star Wars question. He is all big-time Star Wars fan. He loves the Ewoks. That was the big quote he made last night that got news today, which was kind of cool.
That is pretty cool. So Aaron Rodgers is the host, or he was the contestant?
He was the host. He's the host for the next 2 weeks. They keep changing hosts every couple weeks.
That's pretty cool. I wonder what his Ewok question is. So, but now that I know what that is, we had 1978. At the time, no one really knew what was happening with Star Wars. But then later on, we got The Empire Strikes Back. We got Return of the Jedi. And in 1985, after those two, we got two series, The Ewoks and Star Wars Droids. They both premiered on September 7th, 1985, as part of the ABC Saturday Morning. And I think this clip here is sort of the promotional clip.
Oh, there's something brewing. The Ewoks are coming. Then.
Not droid!
The news is out. Droids are with us. Saturdays this fall on ABC, it's the Ewoks and Droids.
You'll love it.
So, and the big news, Stan, is that all of the Ewok cartoons are now on Disney Plus.
Yeah. And coming this fall will be the Droids cartoons.
Cool. Very good. So now you had some other things you found there too. There's a whole bunch of figures.
I don't know that I'm going to be able to make it through that.
I understand.
I've never watched it either. I just from the commercial. I'm probably going to give it a shot, but I'm going to. I gotta preface it with, I don't know if I can make it through the whole.
It really looks like they took the Care Bear model and they just threw an Ewok. I was waiting for the things to come out of their chests.
It does, dude.
Of the two of them, the Droids is more watchable than the Ewoks.
I love the Droids.
Yeah.
Well, and at the time, these were clearly targeted to kids, right?
Sure.
This is Saturday morning cartoon,
and they don't have
like the Gummy Bears, and you're exactly right. And for me, being a youngster when Star Wars hit the movie theaters, at this point in 1985, I'm a teenager, and I'm really not looking at the Ewoks and going, "Oh, I can't wait to watch that on Saturday morning." In fact,
I don't recall it, but I mean, look, in '85, I was 10, so I mean,
you would have been the target audience.
I could have been watching that. I don't recall.
You were watching G.I. Joe on the other channel.
I probably was watching G.I.
Joe. One of the writers, I was reading an article. One of the writers of the Ewoks. This was during the '80s, the late '80s. Saturday morning cartoons were very much being watched. That they couldn't be advertising toys too much during the cartoons.
Okay.
Like they had the GI. What I guess it was becoming too obvious. The GI Joe comic were coming. The GI Joe cartoon, the Transformers cartoons. These are all made just to sell toys.
Right.
So the governors that be were kind of saying you can't be doing this. You can't be making cartoons. The strawberry shortcakes of the world
can't be just a show pandering to sell toys.
Yeah.
Right.
So with the Ewoks, the writers were told they can't make the shows too Star Wars-y. because it was
it's a kids show.
Because they're supposed to be, for whatever reason, so they would submit their scripts and they go, "This is too Star Warsy." They would write on it and they'd send it back to it.
In a very weird kind of way, that was probably the first show that kind of branched out on its own then, because everything was very, very campy Star Wars up until then, maybe. And this might have been the first show that eventually kind of went away from that. For all whatever.
So Jimmy, if you didn't think that got your attention, how about the jingle that goes with it?
We are brave, we are bold, like our storytellers told. That we're strong and we will fight, and we'll stand up for our rights. We're the in the spirit of the forest.
Ed.
We are
Yeah.
Ed hit the nail on the head with the Care Bear reference. I'm telling you, it looks like they reimagined Care Bears.
Yeah,
it does to some extent.
The stories are very Smurf-like, where it's the same villain every week that's trying to get the Ewoks.
Gargamel. Oh no, they didn't call him Gargamel.
Yeah, it's very similar to that.
Well, they eat meat. They eat big things, so I wouldn't put the Ewoks down.
I was definitely a Smurfs fan, so that's not.
Oh wow, the cat.
There's no problem there. There were a whole bunch of them, by the way. It included, I think it said, quote, it included your favorites from the Return of the Jedi that helped to throw over the Empire. Paulo and some of those T-Bows on there. Chirpa, Lord Grey.
Wicket. I mean,
he's the main guy.
There's Wicket, then there's Wicket 1, Wicket 2.
Wicket was the most famous one in
absolutely
in Return of the Jedi.
Yeah. Right. Mm-hmm. Now you got to have bad guys too, right? So there were some bad guys.
Oh goodness!
So this is close to Gargamel, isn't it? Gornish.
Totally. Kaz is the only legit Empire dude there.
Yes, there's one Empire guy, and there's a bunch of stories around this Sun Star, apparently, and I haven't watched those. Stan, have you really seen all these?
I saw them on DVD like a long time ago. I didn't watch them when they first came out. Like I was
with the kids, of course, right?
Yeah, sure. I watched the DVD because I never got to see them when I didn't get ABC growing up, being in Canada, so I never got to see them on the initial run. Plus, I was like driving around my car at that time.
Right. Well, that was the problem. Yeah,
I had my first Mustang then.
Sure. No, I completely get it. And these are some of the bad guys. By the way, there's a link there if anybody's watching. That's where I got all this from, StarWars.com. It was a deep dive in.
They definitely bought that from the same dealership as the Flintstones car.
It sure looks like it. Now, Stan, to your merchandising point, holy cow, was there merchandise for this? And I don't remember seeing any of these things in the store.
Yeah, me either.
Very rare.
Yeah, you didn't care.
But yeah, exactly. That's the point too. We weren't looking at 2018.
We weren't in the toy store. We were in the aisles looking at the hubcaps for your car and all that kind of stuff.
Buying Pioneer speakers.
Exactly. But there was a whole bunch of toys. Apparently, if you're an Ewok, you need that thing to walk around inside of. It's like an AT-AT, but it's not.
Right.
Some characters, I don't know who these people are.
To the back.
But I think yeah.
Getting T-Blow.
Oh, not all.
Not all of them.
Anyway.
So all of that said, this thing is now on Disney Plus. And you can see that I stopped a little bit into it because I have my resume button there, but it did start in the first episode.
And there was comic books and everything. There was a comic book series for the Ewoks and the Droids as well.
Yeah, and I actually had the Droids next on the list here because they both did come out at the same time. The Droids may be a little better. Now, here's something interesting in this theme song. Listen to this one, then we'll get into who wrote this and sang it.
Stepping softly in a danger zone. No weapon in my hand. It's just this brain designed by man. Got me trouble again. Trouble again. Put my life in jeopardy.
Yeah, R2D2 is himself. That's great, isn't it? Yeah.
I wouldn't care, but it's a dangerous.
All based on the characters of George Lucas.
Trouble again.
Like that, Queen.
Trouble again.
So Star Wars droids based on the adventures of R2-D2 and C-3PO.
And,
so
and
here's
those
what's cool here.
this series would have been set between episode 3 and 4.
Yes.
If it's not
somehow
canon.
in there.
It's not canon, but that's
it's not canon anymore, but I don't know if it was at the time. But interestingly enough, Stan, you bring that up because one of the articles I read is that George Lucas gave them Ewoks and droids to create these cartoon series with, because he didn't know where the franchise was going to be going.
Yeah.
And he thought they were the two safest things. Like, he wouldn't give them any of the main characters. No Darth Vader, no Princess Leia or Luke Skywalker. He kept them out of it because he didn't know what was going to happen with the franchise.
They did the same thing with the Marvel comics as well. While the movies were coming out, you couldn't use Luke Skywalker very much, or you couldn't use Darth Vader at all. That's what it was.
Yeah, for those. So here's what I was getting to. Trouble Again, that theme song was performed and co-written by Stuart Copeland, the drummer of the Police. So it sort of had a little feeling like the Police there.
It did have a little Police feel to it. It sure did.
It did. It did. And that's why I said listen to this thing, because that was interesting.
And the reason why Droids only got 1 season versus Ewoks getting 2 seasons was because of the cost of production. The Droids was way more expensive to make than the Ewoks one.
And think about it. So the hour, they used to put these back next to each other, and it was called what, the Droid Hour or something like that. I forget what they called it. But
Power Hour.
The Power Hour. The estimate was $600,000 to create these 2 episodes. That was in 1985. How much money is that? No wonder they canceled it. It was in comparison to other Saturday morning cartoons. The production quality
higher than most cartoons.
Yeah. What George wanted to do, production quality, he brought a filmmaker's attitude to it versus a Saturday morning cartoon where they would reuse things and do the 1-bit map on the background and stuff. And that's what really caused it all.
Anthony Daniels was making $400,000 an episode.
I was about to say Anthony Daniels.
That could be it, Anthony Daniels. So here's some of the characters, which I saw this in that little ship that was there. And now I'm going to tell you where my eyes went immediately. My eyes went, hold on a second. Who is that? And gosh darn it, it is indeed Boba Fett.
Yeah, see, that's the blaster that my Boba Fett came with when I did the mail away.
This is the droid from, that's the Kenner action figure from the droid series, from the TV series, and it's Boba Fett. And so I thought to myself, okay, when the heck is Boba Fett in this? How do they do this with Boba Fett? So I got another.
Some of the other gang leaders.
Jabba the Hutt has a reward out for you.
Oh, you can't tell him I'm here.
Have no fear, Size From. I owe you a favor. I shall do as you ask. No.
Oh no, I stopped it.
One escapes me.
Sorry.
I have someone on the job. Just remember.
Boba Fett.
After this, we are settled, Size From. After this, I owe you nothing.
So it's cool that Boba Fett's in it.
Yeah.
And he's definitely showing off his honor. That type of like straight honor he has, even though he's a bounty hunter.
Yeah. Veronica, how you doing? Absolutely. I love Ahsoka as well. We'll get there. Dave, good to see you. So here's, I went to eBay today just to see what I could find. So there is a stormtrooper from the Star Wars droid series for $87. Wow.
The cool one is the R2-D2 because it's a totally different look than the...
It is. And I'm glad you brought that up, Stan, because this is a screenshot of those guys. But it's completely different, as is the C-3PO.
Yeah.
He's got blue. He's got weird colored arms. The R2's got it. I kind of sort of remember seeing these in a store and looking at it and going, that's not R2-D2. What is this?
Wow, those coins just like triggered a memory too. I think I might have some of those coins somewhere. Jeez.
So when I say that, I looked at that thing in the store and thought, that's not R2-D2. Here we are now in 2021, and R2-D2 selling for $720.
Wow.
Or that's a current bid, so it's actually you bid.
That's a current bid, yes.
You should have invested in R2-D2s.
Apparently, I should have invested in R2-D2s that don't look like R2-D2s. I don't know what those are.
You know that probably like on a collector's market that probably is part of the reason he's so collectible and valuable is because it doesn't really look like there's tons of action figures of R2-D2 that look just like R2-D2, but this one-off one.
Yeah. This one-off, it's crazy. And by the way, like Stan mentioned before, that took its way right into comic books. These are the droids, part of that Star series. And interestingly enough, these are Marvel comics. Interestingly enough,
sure. Look at the middle cover; he matches the
absolutely. Yep, this the middle one, well, the one on the right. But yes, he matches the action figure. It's who it is. And if you look at some screenshots from the show, it matches. He's got that weird little circle on him, and it's just different. It's wow.
And this was in '85.
This was in 85 to 86 is when this went.
Should have known what he looked like by then.
It looks. I mean, another thing is if you look at 3PO. Like his eyes are much more animated and almost human-like.
Yeah,
they are, and
I'm sure they did that for the cartoon, but yeah,
right.
Yeah, well, that was the thing that the animators. There was that same article I was reading. The animators were also talking. They interviewed them, and they said it was hard to animate the droids because you can only do so much with the facial expressions compared to the Ewoks.
Yeah, but I believe that I watched a couple of these back in the 80s, the droids. I don't think I watched the Ewoks. And it was
too.
It's very possible. All right. So then from an animation point of view, we went from 1985 all the way until 2003, a long time before we got Star Wars Clone Wars. Now, Stan, this is where I want you to give me a little detail here, because this is not the Clone Wars. This is Star Wars Clone Wars.
Yes. So this was we always knew it as a Tarkovsky series. This one, it's a 2D animation versus a 3D animation that the Clone Wars had. And they were just shorts. They're like 12-minute episodes. And they were on Cartoons Network. And they were basically used to fill in time in between shows. So they would have like Powerpuff Girls, and they would show an episode of this, and then they would go on to something else on the Cartoon Network. They eventually released them off on a DVD. That's the DVD case, the picture there.
Right.
Which they eventually came out with. And it's much more easy to watch them on the DVD and now on Disney Plus than it was in those little 12-minute segments.
So these are on Disney Plus now?
Those are on Disney Plus, yeah.
Okay. All right.
If you go into Star Wars Vintage, they're all on Disney Plus. Season 1 and 2 were 3-minute episodes. Those were the fillers, and they did so well on Disney Plus that's when they decided to bump them up to 12 minutes.
You know what's interesting is, well, first of all, one thing that I find very interesting is you can tell the Clone Wars was definitely based somewhat upon this animation style. If you look at Yoda, he looks very similar. Count Dooku looks very similar. Also interesting is this where they introduced Asajj Ventress?
Absolutely, Jimmy,
and General Grievous as well.
There you go. There's the notable first. Asajj and Grievous were both part of this.
This is before Episode 3, so this is the first appearance of General Grievous. Plus the voice actors, D. Dudley Baker, pretty much anyone you name other than Ahsoka, actually, it's the same voice actors. For this series. So when Dave Filoni started the Clone Wars, 90% of the acting was already filled. They had him already.
Yeah. So he took Clone Wars, which I guess. So Stan, if you watch those one after another, does it tell a nice story to it? Because it was hard to get those one after another back then because they were filled.
Yeah, pretty much. They're like half-hour episodes, kind of.
Okay.
When you watch them all, if you watch them on Disney Plus, they kind of tell a whole story. Not a whole story, but like there's a story where these clones have to infiltrate behind enemy lines while there's a big battle going on.
Got it. And I did grab a clip of this just so we could see the animation style. This isn't very long, but it sort of gives you an idea of what was happening. 2D animation. Mace Windu's kicking some butt.
Yeah, Mace really takes over in one episode.
Animation, and I guess it looked like that was the Night Sisters.
The duty.
Sorry, Jimmy.
That was a cool animation of Fisto. And,
yes.
And that also, I guess that was the Night Sisters they were fighting. That's what it looked like.
I don't know if the Night Sisters were in this one just yet. I think they came out of the next one.
I was going to say that, Quinn.
Yeah, Samurai Jack for this.
I was totally going to say that. I was just thinking that.
Yeah, and it's interesting the way that it still focuses on Anakin.
Grows the prowess.
Mhm.
One most gifted student of the
Those Force 3.
Yep, the most
That makes
gifted
more
student
sense.
of the Force.
The bots are the same too.
Yeah, it is. It's a Samurai Jack. It's the same director, same creator. A Samurai Jack and Powerpuff Girls. There's one episode we have to catch with Mace Windu where he just uses force powers like we've never seen before.
Oh yeah.
And they interviewed Tarkovsky afterwards, and they said like this was ridiculous how powerful Mace is. And he says, but you have to realize at the beginning of the episode, there's a little boy that's kind of watching him. So where the story is, the boy is telling the story, so he's exaggerating everything that's happening.
I get it. I get it.
Yeah, so when you watch that one, notice the little boy in that. He said it wasn't as obvious. Maybe I could have made it more obvious. He said, but that was how the storyline was.
I mean, Mace is still known as one of the more powerful Jedi's,
he
right?
fought the Emperor. He made that whole thing go. Brrr. He made.
I mean, if it wasn't for Anakin, he would have killed the Emperor.
Yeah,
you're right. And Ed, I never realized that he did make his face melt.
Oh, yeah.
Veronica, how are you, Dave? If that, sorry,
I think at one point he takes a battle droid and just completely every bolt and screw and washer comes apart, and he uses those as weapons to destroy the entire all the rest of the battle droids.
You know, what's interesting is you see something similar to that in the Mandalorian when Luke comes, how he just crushes that supposedly like the what do they call them? The dark
troopers.
Dark troopers, which are supposedly almost indestructible, and he just like it was, he crushed it like a Coke can. So it's like, holy cow,
that is cool. That is cool. Dave, if that C-3PO figure looked familiar and to have one, you might want to check eBay because they had them there even in open boxes that look pretty good. And Quinn, you're absolutely right about the Samurai Jack.
Yeah.
So, all right. So that is Clone Wars, which then turns into in 2008,
which
Star Wars, the Clone
Wars. You check out is that Clone Wars if you're a Star Wars fan. Is that Clone Wars series?
That's definitely on my list. I'm much more likely to go watch the Tarkovsky
Clone Wars, the 2003.
Than I am the Ewoks. I may watch one episode of the Ewoks just to get a feel for it, but I don't know. But yeah, that definitely looks very cool. I'm interested in going to.
Well, I think they made a change and they left from let's create animation for kids to let's tell stories with the animation. That's the big difference. There you go. Right there, dude. Hold on, Stan. Hold that up again.
So
there it is. The Clone Wars DVD.
Yeah, nice.
That's cool.
That is very nice. So then in 2008, we get the animated feature, the movie, The Clone Wars. So the cool part here, Stan, this went to theaters, right? Do you guys see this in theaters by any chance?
I did. I was very disappointed with the storyline. I thought it was great to see all this animation and all this new stuff, but I was really disappointed with what the storyline was in this movie.
With the Anakin having an apprentice?
Well, the whole point of them having to save a baby Hutt.
Yeah, Zero.
Yeah. You know what? I'm with you, Ed. I am. And by the way, this is absolutely on Disney Plus. It's there. You guys can watch this.
You got to watch it. But regardless of what I say, definitely must watch.
I think if you have not watched the series, The Clone Wars, I think you should watch the movie. I agree.
It's almost a pilot to the Clone Wars, right?
It really is. And I would say, the beginning of the Clone Wars, the series, and I know we're getting there. I would say the beginning of that is also the plot lines get a little tough to watch in the very beginning, but it develops so well and becomes it becomes almost like you have to watch it. So you really want to watch the beginning, to get the backstory.
Yeah, absolutely. And this, Stan, you pointed out this was the first film not distributed by 20th Century Fox, which was kind of a shock to go in and not see the dun 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 dun, because that to me was always Star Wars growing up. But now we don't get it. We just get the LucasArts thing, which is cool. The reviews were largely negative, Stan.
Yeah, the critics.
Well, Ed just gave us his negative review.
Yeah, no, they really got railed on definitely in the beginning.
Yeah.
But commercially, it was a success. They made $68 million on a film that cost $8 million to produce. So
Which went on video and DVD. Then it made a lot of money.
Yeah.
Well, and then like critically, like negative reviews by critics on Star Wars movies mean absolutely nothing to me.
Correct.
This is true.
Because they're well, and even just public opinion on Star Wars movies, like you got to follow. You really have to watch it yourself because they have a huge toxic like fan base that even when Lucas was making it, they were crushing on everything he did. So it's like, you really have to watch it for yourself and make your own judgments because everybody has their idea of what they want it to be, and if it doesn't meet that expectation, then they destroy it. So
that's exactly right.
Well, Solo is one of my favorite Star Wars movies, and the critics.
I agree.
And they crushed it. Like,
I love Rogue One too. I think those are great.
Rogue One, yeah, definitely good.
Good. And your notable characters are.
What was interesting with this one was Dave Filoni was talking about his first sit down with George Lucas, and George is telling him that this is going to be basically about Anakin's apprentice. And Dave Filoni says, "But George, Anakin doesn't have an apprentice." And George says, "No, this is about Anakin's apprentice." And he goes, "But George doesn't have an apprentice." And he goes, then George says it the third time, "This is about Anakin's apprentice. I made Star Wars. He has an apprentice now." And Dave goes,
"So
there you go."
And so we get our new character. We get Ahsoka Tano, which, by the way, that image of her is not the image that was in this movie. She was much younger. You can kind of see it in the movie poster there in the background, but she was much younger and Snips, I think, is what he called her.
Snips and Fly Guy.
Snips.
Yeah. And that is Zero the Hutt. That's Jabba the Hutt's son, who is kidnapped, and there's a whole storyline there. And I agree completely with Ed that it's in left field someplace.
I am not crazy about Zero the Hutt. It's a weird. They made that a very weird character. But throughout the Clone Wars and even further on, Ahsoka Tano, and I know I'm not alone, has become a fan favorite in the Star Wars universe.
Absolutely.
She's an amazing character.
Absolutely a fan favorite. There you go, right there.
Yeah.
But Zero's has pretty good English for a Hutt.
Yeah, that was a little too.
Yeah, he does, doesn't he?
He speaks
weird. Like
he added to the fakeness of it.
He's also got like this weird like accent and voice too. It's
very flamboyant.
Yeah, it's bizarre almost. It's Pizza the Hutt. Now, Pizza the Hutt.
That'll be a whole other show.
That's a whole other show because Pizza the Hutt,
cousin on his mother's side.
Who was in Spaceballs did indeed exist.
He ate himself, David. I got bad news for you. Pizza the Hutt ate himself to death.
That is great. All right. Then, of course, the Clone Wars movie turns into the Clone Wars TV series. 7 seasons, 133 episodes. You can't even start to think about the characters that this thing introduced. It's amazing. And now some people considered it a reboot of the 2D Clone Wars. Would you guys consider it that? A reboot of? Did they retell some of the same stories? Stan, do you know?
I don't think it was so much retelling the same stories, but it was for whatever reason, the 2D series didn't last or catch on, so they started over. And that's
because they tried to play it between cartoons and not make a series out of it. That's why.
Yeah.
And they definitely would touch on some of the subjects from the first one, but I wouldn't say they were, using it as a base. I think they just were brand new again, just touching on some of the same characters.
And the characters are awesome.
And this, I got to say, was probably responsible for bringing about movies number 7, 8, and 9. What do you think?
I agree.
Oh yeah.
This
it definitely definitely made Star Wars like cool again for the younger generations that didn't grow up with it. This was redemption for the prequels.
Yeah,
in a lot of ways, yeah.
Right.
in a lot of ways.
Forgetting
It filled in a lot of gaps. It introduced characters that are just phenomenal when you think about it. Savage and the Night Sisters, and of course Mace and Anakin were there. And just think about some of these. That's Duchess of Mandalore, Satine Geyser, who is the love interest of Obi-Wan. And there's so many plot lines and storylines there. Padme, Yoda, of course, and even go to all the clone troopers, to Rex. The Darksaber was introduced here, Ahsoka and Bo-Katan. It's amazing the things that are part of Clone Wars.
How great of a job did they do giving Rex, even though he's a clone, his own specific personality and making him so likable, even though he sounds and looks like every other clone.
It's true. Well, that was the whole beginning of that whole genre too, because we got all the different clones now that aren't the same, which is excellent.
Yeah, you got Fives, you get Rex, you get Echo, who we end up with, Cody. Yeah,
sure. And even down the road in another series, you'll get the older clones, which I think is a great thing too.
Which is still Rex. Yeah,
which is still Rex.
But before, real quick, I just don't want to get off the one point of oh crap. Moving on. I'm sorry, we missed it. I'll come back to it. Sorry,
that's okay. So here's, I do have a Clone Wars question for you, because there are, did we say 133 episodes of this thing? And it's a question I get a lot, because when I watched them, I bought the DVDs before Disney Plus. I was a couple of years ahead of my time here, and just started watching them from episode 1 straight through, and just knocked them out. But I know that there are places where you can go and find a list of how they happen in chronological order. Because you'll notice the Clone Wars tend to have 3 episodes that are sort of tied together, and then it jumps in the time frame, and there's 3 episodes tied together, and it jumps somewhere else.
And some of them jump back, so it's not it's not just straightforward. So
right. So you watch a couple in season 3, and then go back to one in season 2, and then go to season 4, and that puts them in chronological order. But is that the right way to do it? What would you guys do?
Beginning to end.
Yeah, I've watched it straight through twice.
Yeah.
I've
same thing with the movies
through the second time.
You still watch the movies in order.
I enjoyed them so much. I could probably, and I did. And I know we're getting there, but I did. So I did I did the movie first, and then I did all of Clone Wars except for season 7, because that didn't exist at the time.
That's right.
So then moved on to Rebels and then Resistance, and then. At some point, I went back and watched season 7, but then just recently, I started all the way back at the end of Clone Wars. I skipped the movie, I believe, and just started with the series, and watched it all the way through again, and all the way through with season 7, then watched it all the way through Rebels. And I could probably go back and do Clone Wars again. I enjoy it so much. I enjoy it. It's so entertaining.
Well, and that's another good one, except like you said, there's a couple of series of them where there's 3 in a row that do a story, but you can almost pick any Clone Wars episode and just throw it on and watch it from beginning to end and really totally enjoy it.
Yep.
And there are so many storylines. So you know what, guys, this is why I wanted to do WompRatRadio, because we could take a season and just talk about it.
Sure, I know. It takes me long. Before I forget again, Jar Jar Binks. They had an entire episode where Jar Jar Binks was a god darn hero. Come on, how can you do that? That's incredible.
I don't remember the planet, but it was on that planet where like the female queen or whatever who ran the planet, she was in love with him. So
I sort of remember that one.
And Mace Windu, who escorted him, and he like got totally shunned. They wanted nothing to do with him. Everything was about Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah.
All right. With that, we're moving on.
Yep.
With that, we'll move on to the next in our series in 2014, Star Wars Rebels, which, by the way, unbelievable cast of characters. And in fact, doesn't include Ahsoka Tano, who shows up in this one. Doesn't include. There's no. I mean, Thrawn's not there.
Lando.
Let's throw some characters out, right?
Lando. Vader. Was Vader in Rebels or was Vader in Clone Wars?
Rebels.
He was in Clone Wars.
He was in Clone Wars too.
Now he was, but he wasn't originally. He was in Clone Wars season 7, but only briefly, where he walks out at the end, and at the end of the last episode, he walks.
Yeah. I do.
Finds Ahsoka's lightsabers.
Yeah. Now, the cool thing here that Stan, that you pointed out, was that this was the first thing. This was the first production that was released after the Disney acquisition of Lucas. So this is clearly in the new era. This is the new story group, which, by the way, we should mention that everything from the Clone Wars movie, all of this is considered canon, and it's tied to everything else happening in the Star Wars universe. The other things are legends.
And we really jump with these guys because with this series, we're going before New Hope now. So this is the intro into the rebellion. This is the intro into where the Empire is taking over so much that people are starting to fight back. And that is so cool. Where then Resistance, we jump ahead and we kind of see the same thing, the beginnings of the next quote unquote rebellion and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, great intro episodes and seasons.
In my opinion, Rebels is the #1 animated series.
I agree with you, Jimmy. I like Rebels a lot. I love the characters.
I love Clone Wars, but Rebels is
well, and Rebels was nominated for 4 Emmys.
Wow!
During its run.
Nice.
It's just,
and twice it was nominated for Outstanding Children's Program.
That's
incredible. 4 seasons. I wish there were 7 seasons of this. I just love where these things but it left with characters hanging, and we don't know what's going to happen. And some of that hanging characters end up as part of the storylines in Mandalorian, end up in these other places. And that's so cool.
And now at this point, we don't think they'll even, from conversations we've had, they've been kind of reintroduced in the Mandalorian, but not necessarily going to stay in the Mandalorian now that we have these other spinoffs coming off. So it's like, they just threw you a bone. Tell you, yeah, we still know they're out there, but you'll see so it's like, wow, okay.
And that's why it was so awesome to see like Bo-Katan and Ahsoka Tano move from the cartoon universe into live action, because that just solidified the crossover, and that could happen with any character. So I'm chomping at the bit. When are we going to see Thrawn? When are we going to see? Yes, Ezra.
Well, we did see Chopper and the Resistance. In the Force Awakens.
Yeah, we've seen the ship in real life. We've seen the ship, the Ghost, or what's the name of the ship? We've seen that in real life. We've had references to. I'm missing the name of the pilot of the ship.
Harrison Dula.
Right. We've heard references of her as a general down the road.
General Sedula. She's in one of the games. Yes.
So
she's in Squadrons video game.
Right, correct. So definitely, Rebels is a really, really good jumping off point for a lot of stories.
Yeah, absolutely, it is.
Hey, also, interesting, like quick tidbit, if you like that type of stuff, is that Kanan Jarrus was voiced by Freddie Prinze Jr. And his wife is Sarah Michelle Gellar, who voiced the 5th sister. Who both of them. She's one of the Inquisitors. She's the female Inquisitor.
Nice.
So they're married. They're a married couple, and both of them were in Rebels. So how cool is that? So they actually do Comic Cons and stuff together because they were both in Rebels.
Right. And the Mandalorian character is potentially going to be in the Ahsoka Tano series down the road too.
Definitely see that. Yeah. And then hopefully we see Thrawn and maybe Ezra, because the last thing we see of Ezra Bridger and Thrawn, they're on a ship together, right?
Together. Remember, we speculated that Ezra could have been the Jedi that came for Grogu.
We thought that. Yeah, we thought that could have been a possibility. That's true.
Yeah, it was a possibility for certain. Stan will be back in a second, I am sure. So continuing on that timeline, we have Resistance, of course, the next one, which was also on Disney XD, nominated for Emmys. I like Resistance. I think you got to get through you got to get through the animation style a little bit.
The animation style is definitely different. I think that, and so is I would say you also have to get a little used to the animation style in the Clone Wars too. I think I think Rebels probably has the best animation style for me. Just in my my opinion, it's the most easy to watch and get used to. Now, after a few episodes of the Clone Wars or Resistance, you kind of get used to it.
You get used to it. Yeah.
But When you first see it, you're like those hard, like in Clone Wars, a lot of the characters have like those hard lines, like their hair has that hard line to it, and it's a little, you just don't, it's just something you're not used to, unless maybe I can't remember what Samurai Jack. Quinn said Samurai Jack, unless maybe that's that type of animation style. I'm not familiar with it, so it took a little bit for me to get used to it, but it's fine. I mean, it's more about the story, regardless.
Clone Wars did soften up throughout the seasons, though. You look at season 7 versus season 1; it's a big difference. Like they're like wooden puppets in season 1.
Yeah, for sure.
Their hair doesn't move nothing, and then by season 7, their hair moves a little bit.
Yeah, right. That's a good point. That's a very good point. In season 1, they're almost like stop motion animation with wooden board.
Like the previous series, almost like exactly the Samurai Jack animation.
Technology enhancements along the way, but I can still remember the first time I was watching Clone Wars. When you realize these are stories and it's storytelling, it's not about the animation platform or live action. When I'm watching it, and Susan walks into the room and goes, "What are you watching a cartoon for?" and I couldn't explain it. It like took me a minute. Like I knew whatever I would say next, I was just going to sound like a geek or sound like a nerd. So I didn't say anything. I'm just like, because I like it. I mean, I can't.
You know what's funny is though, I felt the same way, and I watched a lot of these shows. Like I'll leave, like Kim will be in the living room and watching something on our main TV, and I'll come lay in the bed and watch it on TV in my bedroom, and then she'll come to bed and she'll, at first she was like, but then like she would fall asleep and then she'd be asking me the next day what happened on Clone Wars, because she'd get
that's cool
a little tied up in the story, because even though it's
and that's what it is, it's a story.
Than it is about whether or not it's animation or live action. If the story's told well, it shouldn't. It could be a book, right? So not that long ago, I listened to the audible version of Ahsoka, which is not live action or animation, right? It's just a story that's being read to you. It did help, by the way, if anybody's looking to do that one, it did help that the book is read by Ashley Eckstein.
Yeah, that helps.
Yeah. So I've watched Clone Wars and Rebels, and I've got this idea of what Ahsoka Tano should sound like. So when you're listening to this book and it's read by Ahsoka Tano, it's her. So it helps tie it together and paint that picture in your mind.
That's cool. Yep. So, Stan, there was another series that came out in 2018 too, and that was the Star Wars Galaxy of Adventures, a YouTube series. I don't know that I've watched any of these. Can you?
Yeah, these are not so much series, but again, these were shorts. They're like a minute and a half. At most, it's 5 minutes, and they're basically retelling and filling in gaps of the original movies. All the movies. The cool thing is there's some Galaxy's Edge shorts as well. I think there's one where they're doing the Smuggler's Run adventure. They're doing the Rise of Resistance adventure. There's one where Chewie has a porg and he's walking through Galaxy's Edge, and the porg takes off and Chewie's trying to catch him. And they're like a minute and a half long. They're really short.
That's fun.
But
and they're only on YouTube though. They're not on Disney Plus, right?
No, they're on YouTube. The YouTube Kids is what they're on.
Okay. That's probably why I haven't seen them then. I need to head on over there.
And they're kind of a pain to watch because they got that introduction and that ending every single time, and they're only a minute long, so or a minute and a half.
Yes.
You got that introduction, like 40 seconds of show, and then the ending, then the next introduction. So they're kind of, to watch them a bunch in a row, it'd be nice to get them edited to where you can just watch them without hearing that same spiel at the beginning and the end.
Just give me the skip intro button that I get on Disney Plus every once in a while. Although I don't hit it that often. So
interesting. Interesting. Boba Fett's on the villain side.
Sure. Yeah, he jumps back and forth, man. He goes
in the middle.
He goes with who's paying him.
Yeah, he goes where the money is. It doesn't matter.
Where's the credits?
If the rebellion was going to pay him, he'd go be in the rebellion.
That's right.
Can I throw one real thing about Resistance? It won't take long. Something to really keep in mind with Resistance and what made it so valuable for me. For the last 3 movies for Star Wars, I had no idea how the Rebels could have lost so badly and turned over and around. They beat the Empire at the end of 6, right? And they were in control. How did they end up becoming the Resistance? Resistance, cartoon tells us how. You see where you have the Empire coming back and becoming strong arming and taking over shops or things like that, where it begins to get worse and worse as the series goes on. I think that's really important to help you out with the last couple movies.
Yeah,
it is.
And that final episode of season 1 of Resistance was so good.
Yes,
it was just jaw dropping.
Yes,
how it
there's
all,
some spoilers in there too. That if you haven't watched it, you need to watch that.
Yeah,
that, because the end of it was like, dang, that was cool. I did not see that coming.
I did not see that coming. Cool.
Yeah, that was cool.
Nice.
Then it takes us to what comes next, right? So we got the Bad Batch coming next. We have also a droid story coming next. There's some pretty cool things happens. Clone Troop 99. That's what these calls are. They're called, right?
Well, the Bad Batch.
The Bad Batch, and this premieres on May the 4th, 2021. I think next week maybe we'll talk a little bit more about the Bad Batch. I had to stand. You gave me so much more data than we have here. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to flip through a couple of things, and this is a future episode of Womp Rat Radio, I promise. And you guys are going to like doing the homework for this, because this is Star Wars animated matchups, right? We're talking things like Family Guy. We're talking streaming on Hulu, the Blue Harvest, the something dark side, and It's a Trap. So many things we could talk to here. And by the way, streaming on Hulu, homework. Any favorite spots here? I think these are hilarious.
They're all good. They're all great.
Couch gag where they're trying to steal the couch from the desk.
From the cash compactor.
Yeah, from the cash compactor. They're throwing it out anyways.
It won't fit in the Falcon. They're trying to get off the Death Star. It won't fit in the door.
Turn it sideways. I am turning it sideways.
That's Family Guy's one. Another big one, Robot Chicken, which, by the way, is streaming on HBO Max. You can find those out here. These are pretty funny.
Oh, and
sure.
Family Guy, before we get away from that, they're very specific. The animation and the drawings are perfect as far as ships, weapons. It's incredible how detailed they are.
Absolutely. And by the way, all these came out before the acquisition, I think.
Yes.
All of these, including Robot Chicken.
I don't think Disney would let.
Well, so there's only one, and you know what? I'm not sure. So Robot Chicken's another one. These are awesome. They're on HBO Max.
Is this where Spaceballs appears? Is this the episode? Is this where we have the section for Spaceballs?
I don't have Spaceballs because it wasn't animated, but Spaceballs is a whole other show. Yeah. I'm definitely talking about that. But to Jimmy's point, and it's a question I have, Robot Chicken's one. The other one, which is on Disney Plus, is Phineas and Ferb. And I think this one happened after the acquisition, but it's really good. It's good. It's season 4, episode 31.
Why is Ferb Mall? Oh my god!
It's good. So all right. It's season 4, episode 31 and 32 of Phineas and Ferb. It's the Star Wars special. And by the way, it's an interesting note because Anthony Daniels did not do C-3PO.
I think it's like the first time ever he didn't.
He must have missed it.
Very platypus.
Or he wanted too much money. It was going to increase production costs.
Simon Pegg, though. That's a name.
By the way,
it is.
Also, just on a different note, talking about adults watching animation, Phineas and Ferb is.
Oh yeah, what are we going to do today?
There is a lot of adult humor built into Phineas and Ferb in any episode. They are great. Sure. They're very well written.
This is the only episode I've watched. It's the Star Wars.
They are very well written and very funny.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much, Victoria. We appreciate that. I got one more thing that Stan brought to my attention that I don't think I knew about, and this is the last thing we're going to talk about. We'll circle back on this another time. Oh no, and I have an issue right now with my presentation. Oh, wait. I'm going to go back first. We'll come back to that. Star Wars Detours. Have you guys heard of this or seen any of this?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so it never released to the public. Tell me the background here for Detours.
So George Lucas did this with was it Seth Green or Seth?
Yeah, Robot Chicken.
And George Lucas called them Squishies. That was his nickname for them, actually. And during Star Wars Celebration in Orlando 2017, this was a big presentation that they showed. And Seth Green was there, and I think George Lucas was there. And they were really excited that this was coming out. and they had 2 complete seasons completed, and they had another like 3 seasons written, and it was going to be a go. The only thing they didn't have was a place to air it, and it was between. They assumed it was going to be on Cartoon Network, but they weren't really sure yet. They showed us a few clips. They showed us a lot of clips. They almost showed. I think they showed us a full episode, and Weird Al Yankovic is in it as one of the characters. Then
he's a character in Star Wars. Weird Al. That's cool.
Yeah. And the acquisition happened, and Disney said, "No, we don't want this airing. It's never going to air."
Are we talking about like Seth Green, the guy that made his fame from the Rallies commercial? Cha-ching.
No. I don't know about that. He's the Robot Chicken guy. He's on Mike Myers. What's the spy movies Mike Myers does? Austin Powers. Yeah, Austin Powers. He's Austin Powers' kid.
That's the same Seth Green.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and I saw
his original TV performance was like a Rallies commercial.
Oh, okay.
Got it. When you swipe the card, you go cha-ching.
I don't know what Rallies is.
I ran into I saw Pablo Hidalgo at a convention, and I asked him about Detours, if we're ever going to see it, and he said most likely it will be shown at a convention sometime, some place like maybe Celebration or something like that. They'll show it, but he doesn't think Disney will ever budge on showing it.
You can find parts of it.
And he said the reason was that they didn't, like, Darth Vader is almost like foolish in this. Like, he's like not, like he's a bit of an idiot. And they didn't want first impression growing up thinking Darth Vader's an idiot, and then they see him in the real movies and he's not that character. They want to keep with the story. And then I asked him, well, what about Star Wars Lego? Because he goes, yeah, but that's Lego. That's different.
It's Lego. That's not a toy. It's different.
Yeah.
All right. So let's wrap up with a clip from an intro to Detours.
Detours! You ready? Punch it!
Yo, dudes, the Empire's pretty chill. Maybe you could, like, join it or something.
No. I left a message with your roommate, but your machine was full, so your landlord hung up on me when I was walking your dog because my homework ate it.
I got dressed for this? Half dressed. Put some pants on, man.
Hey, so, how's my nose look?
Oh!
Detours!
By the
yeah,
way,
maybe I can see why they didn't do it.
By the way, Disney made the complete right decision by not letting that. I mean, that just destroys any character.
Any character tag. That is worse than Hyperspace Hoopla was, and they cut that.
Yeah, it's very Hyperspace Hoopla like.
Yeah. There's a whole bunch of Star Wars Legos too, but that's a whole nother story. So forget that because we're already over, and I appreciate you guys hanging out. And those of you that have watched us, thank you so much. This has been fun. This is always fun. I just like Star Wars.
Yeah.
You guys know that.
Ditto.
Let me find the video file that I want to share here, and I'm going to say, "May the Force be with you" to everybody,
and also with you.
Yep. Have a good night.
Watching and listening to WRRT Womp Rat Radio Tatooine.
Goodbye, old friend. May the Force be with you.
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 May the Force be with us all.
And may the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you.
May the Force be with us.
May the Force be with you. And may the Force be with us.
May the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you both.
May the Force be with you. May the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you.
May the Force be with us.
May the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you.
The Force will be with you. Always. Remember, the Force will be with you. Always.
The Force is with you, young Skywalker.
May the Force be with you.
May the Force be with us.